The year is 1347. A shadow descends upon Europe. It arrives on ships laden with spices and silks but carrying a far more sinister cargo, the bubonic plague. The Black Death, a ruthless pandemic, sweeps across the continent like a raging inferno, leaving devastation in its wake. From bustling cities to humble villages, death becomes a constant companion. The stench of decay permeates the air, a grim testament to the plague's gruesome toll. Within a few short years, the Black Death will have claimed the lives of nearly a third of Europe's population, forever altering the course of history. This is not just a story of death and despair, but also one of resilience, adaptation, and ultimately, transformation. The Black Death, in its wake, reshaped not just the social fabric of Europe, but also its culinary landscape. As fields lay fallow and traditional food systems crumbled, a revolution began to brew in the kitchens and on the tables of a continent grappling with unimaginable loss. New ingredients, techniques, and tastes emerged from the ashes of tragedy, forever changing the way Europeans would eat. This is the story of how the Black Death, a cataclysmic event of unprecedented proportions, inadvertently sparked a culinary revolution, the echoes of which we still feel today. Imagine a world where familiar ingredients vanish from markets, where the rhythm of daily life, dictated by the seasons and the harvest, is thrown into disarray. This was the stark reality for Europeans in the mid-14th century. The Black Death, with its terrifying swiftness and indiscriminate reach, brought not only death but also widespread disruption to every facet of life, particularly agriculture and food production. Farmers, decimated by the plague, could no longer tend their fields. Crops rotted unharvested, and livestock roamed free, their numbers dwindling with each passing day. The intricate web of trade that had supplied cities and towns with food and other essential goods unraveled. Famine, a grim companion to pestilence, stalked the land. The Black Death laid bare the fragility of the medieval world's food systems, which had long operated on the brink of subsistence. The plague's devastation served as a brutal wake-up call, forcing a radical reassessment of how food was produced, distributed, and consumed. It was from this crucible of crisis that a new culinary order would emerge, one shaped by scarcity, ingenuity, and the need to survive. Prior to the Black Death, European society was rigidly hierarchical, with food acting as a powerful symbol of social standing. The wealthy feasted on meat, often multiple courses in a single meal, a testament to their wealth and privilege. Bread, the staff of life, came in varying shades, with the whitest loaves reserved for the upper echelons of society, while the poor made do with coarser, darker bread. The Black Death, in its indiscriminate lethality, upended this social order, shaking the foundations of the feudal system. With death as the great equalizer, the traditional boundaries between rich and poor, lord and peasant became blurred. As famine tightened its grip, access to food, regardless of its former status, became paramount. The scarcity wrought by the plague forced a dramatic shift in dietary habits across all levels of society. The elite, accustomed to a life of abundance, found their tables less laden. Meat, once a staple of their diet, became less readily available. The poor, already accustomed to a diet of scarcity, were forced to become even more resourceful, seeking sustenance from sources previously considered undesirable or even dangerous. Necessity, often the mother of invention, became the driving force behind a culinary revolution. With traditional food sources depleted, Europeans turned to what was available, often foods previously seen as fit only for animals or the desperate. Chestnuts, acorns, and other wild plants, once considered famine foods, became staples in the post-plague diet. This period of culinary experimentation led to the discovery of new flavors and textures, broadening the culinary horizons of even the poorest Europeans. Mushrooms, for example, long regarded with suspicion, gained acceptance as a readily available and surprisingly versatile food source. Nettles, dandelions, and other wild greens, rich in vitamins and minerals, found their way into soups, stews, and even breads, adding nutritional value and flavor to the otherwise monotonous diet. The Black Death, in its own way, democratized food. The rigid dietary demarcations that had defined medieval society began to blur. The peasant palate, once limited by circumstance, was exposed to a wider range of ingredients, forever changing the culinary landscape of Europe. From field to table, a transformed landscape. The Black Death had a profound impact on agriculture, leading to significant changes in land use and farming practices. With a drastically reduced population, land that was once scarce became more readily available. This led to the consolidation of smaller farms into larger holdings, often owned by wealthy landowners or the church. The labor shortage caused by the plague forced landowners to find new ways to cultivate their lands. This led to the adoption of new technologies, such as the heavier plow, which allowed for the cultivation of heavier soils, increasing arable land. The three-field system, a more efficient method of crop rotation, also gained wider adoption, helping to improve soil fertility and increase yields. These changes in land use and farming practices had a direct impact on the types of food available. With more land available for grazing, livestock, particularly sheep, became more abundant. This led to an increase in the production of meat, wool, and dairy products. The Black Death, while a tragedy of unimaginable proportions, ironically paved the way for a more diversified and abundant food supply in the long run. Preserving the bounty innovation born of necessity. The Black Death underscored the importance of food preservation, not just for times of scarcity, but as a means of maximizing the bounty of the harvest. With fresh food often scarce or unavailable, Europeans turned to innovative methods to preserve their hard-won food supplies, ensuring sustenance throughout the year. Smoking, a technique known since ancient times, became increasingly common. Meat, fish, and even cheese were hung over smoldering fires, the smoke imparting a distinctive flavor while extending its shelf life. Drying, another ancient technique, saw a resurgence in popularity. Fruits, herbs, and even fish were dried in the sun or over low heat, removing moisture and preventing spoilage. Pickling, a method of preserving food in acidic solutions, gained wider acceptance. Vegetables, often those readily available in the wild, were submerged in vinegar or brine, preserving them for months. These techniques, born of necessity, not only ensured a more consistent food supply but also introduced new flavors and textures into the European diet. A seat at the table, the elite and their evolving tastes. The Black Death did not erase the culinary distinctions between social classes, but it did lead to some interesting shifts in the diets of the wealthy. With meat less readily available, the elite began to incorporate more fish, dairy products, and vegetables into their meals. This shift was not merely a matter of necessity, but also reflected changing tastes and a growing appreciation for lighter, more diverse cuisine. The aristocracy, ever eager to distinguish themselves, embraced exotic spices with renewed fervor. Pepper, saffron, cinnamon, and cloves, already prized before the plague, became even more sought after, their presence on the table a testament to wealth and refinement. Trade routes, though disrupted by the plague, brought these culinary treasures from the East, adding exotic flavors and aromas to the tables of the elite. Cookbooks, a rarity before the Black Death, began to emerge, offering a glimpse into the evolving culinary practices of the wealthy. These manuscripts, often lavishly illustrated, contained recipes for elaborate dishes, showcasing the skill and artistry of medieval chefs. The spice trade, a world connected by flavor. The Black Death had a profound impact on global trade, including the lucrative spice trade. With Europe in disarray, demand for Eastern spices initially plummeted. However, as the continent slowly recovered, the desire for these exotic flavors returned with a vengeance. The spice trade, once dominated by overland routes, shifted towards maritime routes. This shift was driven in part by the collapse of the Mongol Empire, which had previously provided relative safety and stability along the Silk Road. European explorers, seeking new sea routes to the east, were motivated by the promise of immense wealth and the allure of these coveted spices. The quest for spices would ultimately lead to the Age of Exploration, a period of unprecedented discovery and globalization. European powers, driven by the desire for pepper, cloves, and nutmeg, would establish new trade routes, colonize distant lands, and forever change the course of history. A legacy on the plate, the enduring influence of the Black Death. The Culinary Revolution sparked by the Black Death left an indelible mark on European cuisine. Many of the foods and cooking techniques that emerged during this period of upheaval remain staples in kitchens across the continent. The increased consumption of fish, the use of spices, and the development of sophisticated preservation methods all have roots in this era of profound change. The Black Death also had a lasting impact on the way we think about food. The experience of widespread famine and scarcity instilled a deep appreciation for the importance of food security and the need for culinary resourcefulness. The Black Death, while a tragedy of unimaginable proportions, ultimately led to a more diverse, adaptable, and resilient food culture in Europe. Beyond the plate, a reshaped society. The Black Death's impact on European cuisine was just one facet of its transformative effect on society. The massive loss of life led to a shortage of labor, which in turn empowered the peasantry. With fewer workers available, peasants found themselves in a stronger bargaining position, demanding better wages and working conditions. This newfound leverage contributed to the decline of feudalism and the rise of a more market-driven economy. The Black Death, in its wake, set in motion forces that would reshape the social and economic fabric of Europe, paving the way for the Renaissance and the emergence of the modern world. A culinary journey through time. The Black Death, while a dark chapter in human history, serves as a powerful reminder of the resilience of the human spirit and our capacity for adaptation and innovation, even in the face of unimaginable adversity. The culinary legacy of this period is a testament to the creativity and resourcefulness of our ancestors, who transformed tragedy into opportunity, forever changing the way we eat. Today, as we savor the flavors of European cuisine, from the humblest peasant dish to the most refined culinary creation, we partake in a legacy that was shaped, in part, by the Black Death. It is a legacy that reminds us of the power of food to unite us, to sustain us, and to connect us to the past.